to another episode of Rail Industry Connected. I'm Dan Clark, and thank you for joining us. The skills shortage and the rush to recruit has been a significant challenge in rail for many years now. NSAR's Rail Workforce Survey, conducted in 2023, anticipates that 12,000 people will be needed to work on the railways by 2028 as demand increases and experienced colleagues retire. As companies work to bring in new blood into the industry, such is the need for suitable training facilities and assessors in order to ensure the railways remain safe and compliant workplaces. This challenge is significantly higher for Tier 2s and SMEs, who are competing against each other and buying organisations and Tier 1 contractors for this limited resource. Today, I speak to Raj Sinha, the Group Managing Director for SWGR, an infrastructure services provider that's continued to significantly adapt its operations over the last few years to not only attract new people into the industry, but also to make sure that they remain safe and compliant too. Their sheer drive to achieve this through 36 years of unbroken experience on the railway and a strong digital infrastructure development program has ensured that this company has been accident-free for years while attracting people from all backgrounds to consider a career in rail. Raj, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dan. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So, just to set the scene, just give us an overview of SWGR and what you do on the railways.
Absolutely. So as you know, we've had an unbroken financial history for circa 4 decades now. Very proud of that. We're a very compliant and safe organisation. We started off life in the shipbuilding industry, progressed into oil and gas, and about 36 years ago entered the railway market. We've had a proud history of providing frontline skilled resources throughout the United Kingdom. Our group entails not only providing that resource, but managing a service provision with certain direct contracts that we've got with various clients, including Network Rail and first-tier construction organisations that are working on the railway. We also have a division that provides PPE to various organisations, again, throughout the railway. And we have a training business that basically supported some of the founding literature that was then developed into the new competency training manuals that are now very prevalent within the industry. So as an organisation, albeit it's a separate entity, Global Train provides 26 courses again throughout the United Kingdom. We've currently got 2 offices, one in Warrington and one in Glasgow, and we're hoping to open up a new one in the southern region very shortly. So hopefully that gives you a good oversight and overview of SWGR's group, Dan.
Thanks, Raj. I think obviously from an infrastructure perspective as well, we all know about the recruitment challenges that have been faced by all companies over the last few years. I mean, obviously the stats that came from that survey are huge. And obviously, there's a lot of work to be done to attract that level just to meet the demand. With other industries that obviously seem quite attractive compared to rail, you think about it, we've got weekend work, nighttime working and everything else. What challenges do you foresee in the coming years for rail to bring new people into the industry, and how are you overcoming them as a business?
Very good question. I think first and foremost, there needs to be a recognition that the skills challenge is changed in terms of demographics, even within the railway industry. I joined this industry circa 3 decades ago now, boy to man in the railway, and suffice to say that I was afforded fantastic training and development. And in those days, to get into the railway, you had to have some engagement with an individual that would recommend you in order to try and enhance your career and have a career for life in the industry. It was an industry that paid very well as well in comparison to other industries. If we fast track to now, we're in a very different scenario, especially after COVID. The industry still pays reasonably well. but the relative difference in comparison to other industries is now being very much normalized. We've now got challenges from a lot of logistics organizations, challenges from post-COVID, behavioral change in society where people are working to work in a more warm environment. And now it's much more challenging to try and get individuals and frontline colleagues to actually work in all weathers in the weekend without the ability to actually ensure that they've got work midweek as well. In addition to that, unfortunately, we've also got a huge quantum and depth of experience that is actually leaving the industry, predominantly through retirement. It's a hard industry. So I think if you've served 30, 40 years, for many that is sufficient. And I applaud those that have got to that level. Having said that, there's a lot of experience that is being lost. And I'm very much aware that that experience is being developed through training programs and other initiatives. But fundamentally, you've got a perfect storm. One where you've got the demographics issue, which is happening once in a generation. You've got significant financial challenges facing the industry, 30% efficiency targets. You've got a cultural change in terms of people's mindsets on working in inclement weather or working in a more office-based environment. And then you've also got the challenges of trying to enhance the competencies and relative adherence to rules and regulations, which requires even greater levels of training. And if you are looking to secure that training, then you're having to convince colleagues that have perhaps got a secure job elsewhere in other industries to give up their time and effort, join, and then hopefully develop their skill base in order that they can secure a reasonable livelihood. So the challenges are significant, but how are we actually trying to address them? Now, this is not the panacea for everything here, but there are many forums out there that are trying to grapple with this. What do you do? Well, the win-win scenario has obviously got to try and multi-skill as many people as you possibly can in order to reduce the quantum of people that are on the infrastructure and thereby negate the chance of risk and anybody being hurt. That's one of the advantages, obviously, to multi-skilling. The other is obviously the chances of you actually being in a position to afford a multi-skilled contract to a frontline colleague is significantly enhanced if they've got 3 or 4 more competencies. So if a client is utilizing one at the weekends, perhaps another client will be utilizing another competency that individual holds. Having said that, there is a requirement for much greater, what I would term, non-technical skills development that perhaps is relatively new in the industry. I know it was tested and tried once when the course competency was coming out, probably about 10 years past. But again, I think the industry needs to do more collectively and holistically in order to try and ensure that we are developing the non-technical skills of individuals in order that they're in a position to utilize their multi-skilled competencies to better effect. I don't know if that answers the question, Dan.
Perfectly. I think the emergence of NTS skill or non-technical skills is incredibly important, as you say. I mean, you and I have known each other for a long time now, and I know that has been something that's been quite close to your heart. And obviously, you know, looking at some of your frontline colleagues, the ability to bring them up from a leadership perspective into those leadership roles and develop those behaviors is incredibly important. And when you say we've got a sheer number of people that are retiring and going from the railways that obviously have developed those leadership skills naturally over a long period of time, you know, those skills in younger individuals and, well, to be honest with you, individuals from any walk of life is absolutely essential, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And with the exception of a few roles, I do think that most colleagues, especially in the frontline sector of the industry that we are involved in as SWGR, it's suffice to say that you do need to have some leadership skills in order to undertake the role that you are doing. Your ability to articulate, to orate well, to use your vocal tone, to be assertive when required, to be empathetic, to have that level of emotional intelligence, to ensure that your body language is correct when you're trying to gain people's attention and have that level of authority, hugely important, especially as we have more multi-skilled individuals coming into the industry, because that is the only solution that I can see in order to try and address this huge challenge that the industry faces. I think another important point that I did want to make is that if you go back 20 years, many of the client body would ask for, how many test and commissioning engineers were available in the United Kingdom, and we would allocate them for some major block closures, for example, in Christmas and the likes of New Year. I don't think we're that far away from what was perhaps perceived as lesser roles. And being in a similar challenge. And I'm not convinced that the industry is actually seeing that because of the huge challenges that many clients are facing at the moment. How do I grapple with the financial challenges of CP7? How do I manage devolution? What is the priorities? I think many people are having to look very short term, but if they do elevate themselves above the parapet and get the chance to think strategically, because I have huge sympathy for many of the decision makers that are out there at the moment without patronizing. They've got a huge challenge that perhaps many of us haven't faced in our careers in trying to manage a maintenance, renewals, and enhancement program with lesser monies or the same outputs, but with much less inputs. And with all these demographic changes that you're seeing on skills, how do you bring all that together? So again, just a humble request to all clients that are out there. Please recognize that there are significant challenges coming when the market does pick up in CP7, with not only what you would term as some of the more traditional roles where there was a supply and demand issue, but perhaps it's coming to a level that you didn't expect, and that somehow we need to get prepared for now.
And in between that period of time, obviously where it does pick up in CP7, I mean, we look at previous control periods, it's been a very similar kind of process, hasn't it? It's kind of generally quiet at the start and then it does pick up towards the end. What can buying organisations and SMEs do together in the meantime that actually helps bridge that gap? Because obviously, while it is quieter, it is tougher for your small and medium companies.
Yeah, I think there's been a huge paradigm shift in the level of collaboration, understanding, respect, and support, predominantly inspired by Network Rail, I hasten to add, in trying to support spend going through into local SMEs, trying to enhance their skill base, government training programs, grants. A lot is being done in this space. But unfortunately, and this is a self-criticism on our end of the sector, I do think that there's a level of perhaps immaturity in the frontline sector where we need to be more trusting of each other as competitors and try and support each other. Difficult in a commercial environment, but one which I know has been managed successfully in other sectors, for example, in power and recent examples in renewables as well. So I remain confident that where there's a will, there's a way, and we will get through this as a sector together.
So you mentioned earlier about Global Train. Obviously, you're looking to expand into the south. Obviously, you have premises in Warrington and Glasgow as well. That training element, especially from a recruitment perspective, bringing new people into the industry is incredibly important. You look at it from an assessor perspective and the requirement for decent skilled people that can assess adequately into the standard that you need it to. How can the industry ensure that training remains consistent and as it rushes to bring more people into the workforce?
Yeah, I think, again, kudos to many local authorities, government bodies that are funding and supporting new colleagues coming into the industry, some from difficult backgrounds, some trying to re-energize their lives, coming from difficult situations, and one which I totally applaud. I think it's very, very important that we exercise patience, we exercise balance and thought, in recognizing that we don't rush all these colleagues into what I would call as significant positions of authority. And from a frontline perspective, there has to be a staged engagement where people are brought into understanding the infrastructure. The NSAR accredited programs are very clear and well thought out. The onus is very much on organizations such as ourselves, working with first tier organizations to try and develop and bring these people on in a very structured manner. Suffice to say that doesn't always happen, and it does pain me when I see that we get to a crash and burn time concept. But I've also seen some tremendous examples in various organizations where there has been huge thought and development, not only in terms of the competency training itself, but also in terms of providing some of the softer skills development and training, and what I would call professionalism. Bringing that level of professionalism right at the onset has a huge impact on the future career prospects of new individuals that are coming into the industry.
And once you train them to be competent, there's also loads more to consider, as we all know. We work on such a safety critical environment, so it's hugely important that actually training goes beyond the classroom, actually onto the front line as well. How do you believe that we should be supporting colleagues to ensure that they're looked after on the front line, both from a development perspective, as we mentioned, but also from a well-being point of view as well?
I think, again, many an organisation will be addressing this issue differently. If I can give you an example of what the SWGR group have done, is that we have invested a huge quantum of monies in memory of many friends and colleagues, sadly, that have been taken from us in this industry far too early in their lives. This is a hard industry. It's a tough industry, and as much as there's been tremendous progression, there are many people out there who still will not go and see a doctor or seek medical support and advice. And as much as there is huge diversity and inclusion, support and engagement progressing in the industry, one of the initiatives that we developed or inspired within SWGR is to provide what we term mobile health and safety wellbeing units, that we have got fully kitted out with medical screening equipment, with dedicated nurses, and railway ambassador. And these people basically go out at the weekends and midweek nights to various infrastructure sites, providing free health screening checks to any colleague or client or supplier that we're working alongside, in order to try and give them some indication of their health. It's all confidential, it's sincere, it's genuine, and without putting too much of an emotional point on it, because I don't know the facts, and I shouldn't because it's all confidential. But suffice to say that we have saved people's lives without being too dramatic about it, and that is something that we're hugely proud of. But again, I'm sure that there are many other organisations in the industry that are doing or have got various initiatives on the go to try and give back to those men and women that are out there day in, day out, in all weathers, making sure that the railway is maintained, renewed and enhanced for the fee-paying passenger.
Now, from a development and wellbeing perspective on the front line as well, the role of technology is absolutely huge. I think rail has always been one of those that has been quite innovative in the different things that it does over years. But what technological advancements can you see on the front line being important in the next few years? And has there been anything that you've been doing yourself? We talk about you've got a digital infrastructure development program, but what does that look like?
I think first and foremost, Dan, we do recognise the changes and the benefits that technology is bringing to our industry, and there is clearly a huge push from various client bodies to try and really drive this, and that's for various reasons, from a safety perspective, from an efficiency perspective, which who wouldn't embrace. I think that as an organisation, we're obviously very supportive and are very much aligned to that thought process. We have ourselves invested a lot of time, effort, and monies in new digital infrastructure platform. With again due respect to many of the technology that is out there, from a frontline perspective, we have indigenously developed a lot of our digital infrastructure so that it caters and integrates to exactly what our frontline colleagues, our work family colleagues require at the front end, at the sharp end of the industry from an infrastructure perspective. And we're extremely excited about the future. I have to be quite clear in that there's some quite unique engagements that we're working on, and I'm excited at what that will do for the industry in the coming years.
Where does the future of SWGR lie in the next few years now? Where's your focus is lying towards?
I think we have obviously got our challenges within CP7 in terms of the quantum of volume of works that are coming through. Huge collaboration with our clients, which we're very, very grateful for. There's always challenges from one contract to another, but predominantly, I think the industry recognises that we're a professional and a safe organisation. The facts speak for themselves, and I say that with all humility. But we have to continue to try and sustain and grow our business. And we're looking at some comparable skills within the industry that we have in order that we can venture out. Examples being, we've recently launched our minor civil engineering division, where we are providing, again, a career progression to some of our colleagues that are coming through from our track engagement. We are also progressing a management program in order to try and fast track with some very good structure some of our aspiring and ambitious younger colleagues to hopefully go on to bigger and better things in life. The future is positive. The future is bright, as I would say, and I remain very optimistic about the future.
Was Raj Sinha from SWGR. Raj, thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing your story. The messages of collaboration throughout the industry, I think, are incredibly important. We all well know the challenges that we see from a recruitment perspective, from people retiring as quickly, at a rate as quickly as they are. So actually addressing that through collaboration and actually really demonstrating how you look after your colleagues, how you develop them, and developing them through leadership skills, through those non-technical skills is going to be essential in the coming years. Railway obviously is losing a lot of leaders, so to really focus on those behavioural skills and develop people into the leaders of tomorrow is absolutely essential if the railway is going to succeed. So Raj, thank you for sharing those anecdotes with us, and all the best for the future. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Rail Industry Connected. You can view past and future episodes of Rail Industry Connected on YouTube, or listen to them on your way into work on Spotify. And of course, you can connect with other rail businesses in the industry on railindustryconnect.co.uk. Thank you, and see you next time.